is the question. We're not looking for the platitudes now. Oh, just work hard, everything's great. The actual nitty-gritty, the sand in your shoe, the how part. How do you do it? How do you go from being a 7-year-old kid who goes, actually, do you know what? Yeah, I want to retire early. So what's the mechanism that takes you from being a 7-year-old kid who wants to retire early and go on holiday once a year to actually achieving it? What are the steps, the actual steps that you've taken where you've gone, I did this and I got that outcome?
So I will explain it in more detail, but the reality for me is, and I tell everyone, you've got to take action every single day. And they sometimes think that's a bit willy-nilly, but it's true. Every single day we take action. So if I rewind back to 7, some people would say it's weird that I was like that. I was already thinking in that way. Maybe it was. But the reality is I was constantly used to it. And I was looking at it and I was counting money. As a kid, I was getting my change out. I was counting it. I was wanting to learn. And what I realised, and this, I don't mean this disrespectfully to teachers because this is generalisation what I'm about to say, but I had a couple of really moody, unhappy teachers when I was quite young. And I remember looking at them straight away, as young as I was about 9 at this point. And I remember thinking, you ain't even happy with your life. I didn't say this out loud. Yeah. But in my head, I was like, you're not even happy with your life. What am I going to learn from you? So for me, I took my own view and I said, I'm going to teach myself the stuff I need to teach. I understood education was important because you needed grades in those days. Mm-hmm. You don't really need them nowadays, but you needed grades to do certain things. So I went around trying to learn things. And that's where probably I was lucky that I had 2 hardworking parents where I could, because by the way, my siblings didn't do what I did. I've got 2 older brothers and 2 younger sisters, and I love them all. Unfortunately, one passed, my sister. But, I really took that opportunity. I was watching what they did, and I was quite skeptical in my head. I thought, well, you're not very good at that. You can imagine a kid thinking that. But I was thinking, you're not very good at it. But actually, what I was learning is things they weren't so good at. So I think, well, I need to be better than them at that.
Give us an example, Charlie. Give us something that you think, they weren't very good at that, and what you would have done better, or what you did do better.
My mum was far too giving. So as a business lady, she is actually a successful business lady, but she would have been far more successful if she understood the balance between business and giving. You've got to give to get, but the reality is, if you give everything away, then what have you got? She's too kind, too nice. It sounds bad to say someone is too nice and too kind, but the reality is, in business, people take advantage of you. And then from my dad, he's a great worker, but doesn't really understand money. Never learned how to read or write or do numbers. He knew how to make money, obviously, but he didn't have to keep it. So for me, I was looking at things from, my mum was phenomenal with paperwork and a great lady, great networker, great at building relationships. Didn't really understand how to monetize that. My dad, on the other hand, was also very good at a lot of things, but didn't understand how to keep hold of money. So for me, I was learning, and like I said, it does sound weird, but as a child, I was looking at this and thinking, well, I can learn a lot from my parents because I learn the things they're really good at. But also I'm looking at this and say, well, who's not? So then I went, my Uncle George is very good with money. So then when I was realizing my dad wasn't so good and my uncle was really good, I used to bend his ear a lot as a child and ask him what he's doing, why he's doing this and stuff like that. And so for me, it was about actually learning. Too many people want to be this trillionaire or financially free or whatever they want to call it, but they don't really want to do the work to get there. And they're lazy. There's a lot of laziness, a lot of excuses. As I already said, I use that word a lot, excuses. But I hear more excuses than anything in my day-to-day world. And the reality was, for me, to get from A to B, because I didn't have that money where someone said, here you are, here's this. Now, was I afraid to ask for money at an early age? Absolutely not. When I was 19 and I wanted to buy 2 properties, there was one that I was just about $4,000 short of. Now, most people think, I can't do it. I thought there's a way I can do it. I mean, $4,000 in 2008 was probably a lot of money, but I thought, well, there's a way I can find $4,000 and I'm going to ask people for it, quite frankly.
So what did you do? Talk us through that mechanism, because that's the sort of sand in your shoe I'm interested in.
Yeah, and that's what I exactly did. I went out to friends and family, not my mum and dad, because I always appreciated what they'd done for me in life, so I never really wanted to ask them for money. Whether they would have given it to me or not, I don't really know. But I had friends, family, nan. Also, I went to them and I told them my plan. I said, I'll give it back to you after this amount of time. And you can imagine, as a young kid, or 18-year-old, I was proposing this, that you could imagine that that's quite an unusual thing for an 18-year-old to be thinking about, especially back in 2008, by the way.
Yeah.
Nowadays, I teach loads of people to do stuff like this. But back then, I didn't have any education. There was no one really telling me to do these things. And I think you've got to think outside the box at times. You can't just think, oh, well, I've got no money. Well, how are we going to make it? That's the way I look at things. How are we going to make this money? Don't tell yourself, I've got no money. The reality is, okay, I don't have that money, but how can I get that money?